What's happening, everybody out there? Welcome to another episode of The Sully Show. We're going back to school today, to the wonderful Sully School of Alcohol, with a history lesson for y'all. So close up your books, throw away your pens, and grab your bottle, and get ready for class to begin. Alright, let's go ahead and pour up some of this wonderful Redneck Riviera here before we get too deep into the scholastics of things going on here. And hopefully y'all get like a little something today. And y'all walk out of here a little bit more educated than when y'all walked in or tuned in online here, since this is a online school of higher education and things. Alright. So to fully appreciate something, I feel like you got to know a little bit of the backstory of it, right? To fully understand all the hard work and effort that went into producing the wonderful substance that is in your cup, your mouth, and in your stomach eventually, hopefully. So today we're doing a little history lesson on the Jack Daniel's Distillery. Alright. So we're going to start with the basics. Alright, who started Jack Daniel's Distillery? Well, a little guy by the name of Jasper Newton Daniels. It wasn't Jack Daniels, but everyone called him Jack Daniels. So the guy's actual name was Jasper Newton Daniels. Jasper is kind of a funny name. I can see why he went by Jack instead of Jasper. So he was born early, like in the 1850s or so. Early 1850s, exact date is unknown for some reason. Kind of seems weird, but exact date that he was born is unknown. Both his parents died at a young age. His father died in the Civil War. His mother died before that. So he wasn't probably about like 14, 15 by the time both his parents were dead. Kind of a rough life to start out with. He was like one of 10 children. So they all kind of had a rough life there. Real bummer for them. But after his parents died, he went to live with this guy by the name of Dan Call. Alright, now Dan was known for two things in that part of the country. He was known for being a pastor and for making moonshine. You know, what two things go better together than being a pastor and making moonshine? So Dan Call, along with his former slave, now living with him on the farm helping him make moonshine, Nathan Nearest Green, taught Jack Daniels, or Jasper, as we're going to call him since we're like best friends with him obviously. They taught Jasper everything there is to know about making whiskey, how to filter it, how to make it, all the ins and outs that would be needed to know to open your own distillery. So with all this wonderful information taught to him by his new friends, he opened a distillery. In 1866, him along with Dan Call formally opened the Jack Daniel's Distillery. It was the first registered distillery in America. So that's kind of why Jack Daniel's is so important, so foundational to American whiskey. It's not only the best selling for the past 150 years, it's the first registered legal distillery to ever open in America in 1866. And to be nice to everybody that was involved in beginning processes, they hired Nathan Green as the head distiller. Alright, so all three of them got a job out of this for a little bit there. Now, a little bit into the process here, I don't know the exact date that old Danny boy, Dan Call, I don't know exactly when he left, but pretty early in the early stages, he decided, you know what, I want to be a pastor more than I want to be a distiller. So he left the distillery, he left running things, and he went back to be a pastor. And I'm sure he's still making moonshine on the side, you know, he had to. So everything was running smooth for a little bit until the worst, I guess I can't say worst because slavery is obviously worse. But the second worst, I guess there's women's rights and stuff too. One of the worst things to happen in American history, alright, Prohibition. Prohibition hit. And it hit Tennessee first. Alright, in 1910, Prohibition hit Tennessee. And Tennessee decided, hey, you know what? We don't want people drinking anymore. Because we're idiots. And we don't think people should drink. Because we don't like people being happy. That's probably exactly how the conversation went. Alright. But 1910, Prohibition hit in Tennessee. So obviously, not only can you not drink in Tennessee anymore, you can't make it in Tennessee. Because that's like half of Prohibition. So they had to move their operation to Birmingham, Alabama, or Beham, and St. Louis, Missouri. They were producing out of there until 1920, when Prohibition hit all of America, and they got shut down for good. Now, in the 10-year time frame that they were in Birmingham, Alabama, and St. Louis, Missouri, not a single Jack Daniel's product hit the shelf. Alright, because the product just wasn't good. It wasn't up to that wonderful Jack Daniel's quality. You know? So they're like, you know what? Nah, we ain't putting this on the shelf. Alright, this ain't good enough. So basically, once 1910 hit, everything stopped for the company Jack Daniel's. But did they give up? Of course not, because they're Americans. And the stuff is all over the shelf today, so obviously they didn't give up. Pretty high giveaway there. In 1933, 13 years after Prohibition started, the government was like, you know, I think we made a big mistake here, because everybody seems to be very sad, and like, why is that? And then one genius in the background of Congress was probably like, hey, it's probably because nobody can drink, you know? I don't know why I did that accent. I don't know, but some genius was like, hey, let's let people drink again, because this is America. They should be able to do whatever they feel like. So in 1933, Prohibition ended. However, the state of Tennessee was like, nah, fam, not here, dog. You know? They didn't end Prohibition until 1938. Alright, 5 years after Prohibition ended federally. Like, what are you doing, Tennessee? Figure out your life. Alright? Come on, get with the program. But in 1933, the Jack Daniel's distillery reopened and started full swing making product again. They were running smooth from 1938 all the way until 1942, just 4 years later. Obviously, in 1942, World War II started. From 1942 to 1946, the supplies to make whiskey were hard to get, so it was kind of hard for them to make whiskey. Along with, they didn't want to be taking up a whole lot of resources, and they wanted to help out the war effort. So they shut down again. For the second time in their history, in only a few short years. You know? It was a rough start for Jack Daniel's here. It was a rough start for the company. But they kept pushing through, obviously, because they're American. In 1946, the war ended. Obviously, we won because nobody can beat America. And Jack Daniel's opened back up to full operation, into what you know today. A little bit later on, I don't know the exact date that it was sold, but eventually it was sold to the Brown-Forman Corporation, which is a big corporation that owns multiple different brands, the most popular being Jack Daniel's, obviously, Woodford Reserve, and Old Forester. They also own like tequila brand, wine brand, vodka brand. They own a whole bunch of different alcohol brands. So eventually Jack Daniel's wonderful creation was sold to corporate greed. Now, I don't know, I'm sure they had a good reason for selling. I don't know, man. Now that's the basic history of Jack Daniel's. That's kind of, obviously, not a lot of details, but a good overview gives you an idea of what went on, kind of how everything started going, the history behind it, everything like that. Obviously, it's a Sully School of Alcohol. We don't go too into detail, because that's going to take away drinking time if class goes on for too long. But, I want to give you all some good information. So if you learn anything from this class, it should be these few things right here. First of all, you don't need books to learn, because y'all just got learned with a bottle. Boom, I'm a rapper. Y'all. But a few fun factoids about the Jack Daniel's history and everything. Alright, in 1911, old Jasper, our boy Jay, I always call him Jasper J, you know, old Jack Daniels died from an infection because one day he showed up to the distillery nice and early, you know, as any good business owner would. Went to his safe first thing so he can count all his monies, see how much money he has to throw at alcohol that day, probably. I guess. I don't know what he buys, you know. Dude's old. Dude's dead now. I didn't know him. I don't know his life. But he got to his safe. He couldn't open it, so he kicked it really hard, broke his big toe. That led to infection, and he died. So moral of the story, alright? Don't worry about how much money's in your safe. Go buy some liquor. Or don't kick a safe, break your toe, and die. That could also be the moral of the story here, but that's less important. Now, they used the charcoal filter, the Lincoln County process, a charcoaling filter. And back in the day, when they first started distilling, and even before they were Jack Daniels, when they were still Dan Call, Nathan Green, and old Jasper J, everybody filtered with charcoal. It was like just the thing to do. It was how you made whiskey back in the day. However, when technological advances happened and everything, and people were able to make whiskey in higher volumes and faster and everything like that, they realized that charcoal filtering, while effective, it costs money and it takes up a lot of time. So a lot of distilleries stopped doing it to save time and money. And those are two big things in business. You know, can't buy time, you can't buy money. You gotta make money, you gotta make time. Two big things right there. Little economics 101 for you. So a lot of people left the charcoal filter process. However, old Jasper J stayed true to it, and he kept doing it. And that's part of what makes Jack Daniels today, is having that charcoal filter. Now another big part of what makes Jack Daniels the product that it is, and a big reason that it probably didn't go so well when they moved to St. Louis and Birmingham, is the cave that is on the Jack Daniels land. Alright, back in 1884, Jack Daniels sold his father's estate, took that money, and bought this nice piece of land that the distillery is on today. And on that land, there's a cave. And in that cave, there's water. But it's not any normal old water. No, this water is special because this water is limestone filtered. Alright? And with it being limestone filtered, it's so pure, so mineralized, so much better than every other water, especially Dasani. Dasani's trash. Alright? Throwing that out there. They weren't even around back then though. So it was amazing water, amazing quality, and that contributes to a lot of how Jack Daniels gets their product to be Jack Daniels quality, is actually from using such great water, so close to the source, everything like that. At the entrance of that cave, there's a statue now to our boy Jasper J, old Jackie Daniels. He's got a statue at the cave because obviously he, kind of created the entire thing. So it only makes sense that they give him a statue. Now, the last little interesting factoid for y'all on the Jack Daniels distillery is the county it is located now in. It's in Lynchburg, Tennessee. I don't know the exact county. Maybe it's Lincoln County. It kind of makes sense. But the county it's located in is a dry county. So one of the biggest distilleries in the world, even not even America, one of the biggest in the world is in a dry county. It's kind of just interesting. However, I'm like 99% sure they can still sell whiskey at the gift shop because it's a gift, So I'm pretty sure they got around it. But it's kind of interesting there for you. If you ever go take a tour of the Jack Daniels distillery, you can see all how it's made. It's supposed to be a pretty neat tour. And at the end of it, they give you a nice ice-cold glass of lemonade because they're in the dry county. So kind of neat, kind of different. Not something you see every day. But if you feel like y'all are more educated, if you feel like you learned something, if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, leave a comment on what history class you would like to attend next. And most of all, share with your friends so we can all come to learn, enjoy, and appreciate the history behind the wonderful beverage that we all consume. Delicious. Until next time, though, hope you all didn't take any notes. Hope your books are still closed. And cheers.